Going to Worlds for us is like a dream. It's gonna be like really tough for us to win the Gauntlet, but we have been a team that we've always won when we had less chances of winning.
Flash forward onto the dark binding. Audrey with the mystic shot.
I think they will try to beat us, but I don't think they believe in themselves that they can qualify for the World Finals, and we actually do.
Yeah, I think we have a big edge over Giants.
Nukeduck's gonna look for the Quadra. Can he get it? He does! Quadra kill for Nukeduck.
We always turn the tables when it's like the last chance.
They can still beat us, so let's just see how it works.
Lo que yo pienso sobre Roccat es que tienen un punto muy débil y es que no saben ser ofensivos. Tengo tantas ganas de jugar y de ganar. Yo antes pensaba, voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda, pero yo ahora pienso, voy a destrozar.
European LCS Regional Qualifier, where 4 teams will compete this weekend, but only 1 will go to Worlds. We're back at our studio here in Berlin, Germany. As you can see, the teams are setting up, and there the Giants were chilling just a few moments ago. A very important game for them today. Need to have it all on the line if they want to go to Worlds. And they're Pulse and Pulsa preparing, as they will be casting our match here today, setting up with their snazzy outfits and their Roccat, enjoying some sun, but of course getting into the zone. What an important matchup for them here today. They will possibly have to win 3 best-of-5s to make it to Worlds. I'm Evje Sjogsupporter here with James Stress O'Leary and Mitch Kreppel-Voorspools as Roccat and Giants set up for the first of 3 matches that will leave us with our final European contender for the 2015 World Championships. Well, first, let's recap who's already made it to the international stage. Of course, SKT, they won the LCK summer finals over there, over the Tigers. That means that the KOO Tigers will be the 2nd seed coming out of Europe, over KT, sorry. That does mean that KOO Tigers will be the 2nd seed coming out of Europe on circuit points, and SKT are the 1st seed. It's nice going into the World Championship once again as the 1st seed.
It's great for them. I mean, they look very convincing today. 3-0. Their opponents, KT, now they're going to have to run the regional qualifiers for Korea. So certainly still a lot to play for over in LCK.
Faker at Worlds. That's all we need to say. But Marin too, I actually look forward a lot to seeing how Marin will shape up against us, some of the other top laners. What he does on Maokai, pick we've traditionally just written off and be like, man, they pick it to go even, they pick it to be a tank top laner. Now he straight up carries on that champion, and it's very entertaining to watch.
SKT and KOO aren't the only teams to have got their qualification for Worlds today, because just a few minutes ago, actually, GPL's Bangkok Titans secured their spot from the international wildcard over the Chiefs from Australia. So unfortunately, the Koalas not going to be in chat for
Hype
Worlds.
train derailed.
Yeah, and then obviously last week we saw how Fnatic took the #1 seed and actually kicked back Origin to the Gauntlet, the region qualifier where we are today. But yeah, they didn't win in as in convincing fashion as many people or analysts expected. Very close finals overall, and I think it's good for Europe as a region where now Fnatic has things they can learn from. Origin showed that they're pretty much guaranteed the 2nd best team in Europe. However, H2K does go to Worlds by merit of championship points due to it was only Origin's 1st split overall. But yeah, fantastic representation at Worlds for Europe as a whole, I feel.
Yeah, and that does also mean that Fnatic will be avoiding SKT in the groups at least.
Yes, which for European fans is
Hope
great.
intensifies.
They haven't dodged everybody yet, because there are a lot of scary teams coming out from LCK and LPL.
Yeah, but that with H2K, Fnatic, those are our first 2 representatives at Worlds from Europe. That leaves 1 more spot on the line, and that we will be deciding here this weekend in our regional qualifier. We'll be awarding that spot over the next 3 days. A tournament that is new here in the LCS in the 2015 season. The teams will play in a gauntlet-style bracket. Their seeding, of course, is determined by championship points, and all the games will be best of 5. The last team standing on Monday after the finals, that will be our 3rd seed.
And the regional qualifier obviously rewards consistency to both splits, both spring and summer. That's why the Unicorns of Love, yes, they didn't play that well in playoffs, they didn't finish that high, but overall throughout the entire year, they've played consistently well overall in terms of rankings. That's why they have the highest seed in the regional qualifier. But it also gives a shot to teams that haven't been performing as well lately, that just got barely in there. Think of Roccat and Giants. You know, they have a tall mountain to climb, but it is still possible. They can make that Najin-esque run through the Gauntlet and perhaps make it even to Worlds.
Yeah, it's a massive mountain to climb. 3 back-to-back best-of-5s over 3 days. So not a lot of time for prep there. Very difficult, but this is the last chance. So, you know, it's not going to be easy for a last chance for a team to make it to Worlds.
Yeah, super interesting. It's the first time we see it over here in the LCS at least. And Krep, also, in terms of like preparation, if you're Roccat, what do? Are you going to put everything on Giants, or are you going to think you're going to face Origin?
Yeah, if you're Roccat, obviously what you've done is you've watched a lot of games on 5.14. This is the longest time, I believe, in the LCS that we've stuck on this patch entirely. So people have been watching champ selects, and especially in the Origin against Fnatic series, we just saw the value of flex picks. You really need to be able to control these picks.
Yeah, you can control the entire pace. You can hide picks till later in the draft. You know, we look at the Fizz, top laners, mid laners. You have to be able to play both. Lulu can go in 3 spots. Shen supports we've seen picking up, and top lane. There's just so much versatility that it is incredibly difficult to draft if you have multiple flex picks that are all strong in their role.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Flex picks just allow you to pressure the pick and ban phase and hide information up until the very last second. You don't even know where the champion is going up until the last pick.
Or you first pick a Gangplank.
Yeah, that's the alternative. If you don't believe in flex picks and you just want to win the game straight up, a champion may want to invest in his Gangplank. Overall, we've seen him just wreck in the finals. It started out with, you know, Gangplank versus Riven. Is Riven the counter? But in the end, it boiled down to, yeah, just get Gangplank, win the game. Hopefully, we saw a fantastic performance from Soaz on that champion. We'll have to see whether the top laners here in the regional qualifier have picked up this champion well enough to match Soaz at least. Otherwise, Origin will have it banned against them pretty much every game.
Super interesting. But with the meta game shifting as we close in on the Worlds 2015, we want to know what you think. Get on Twitter and tell us which strategies do you think will prevail through the regional qualifier and why. You know the drill. Tweet at LOL Esports. Use that hashtag LCS and we'll track down your answers later today. So the battle for the big stage starts today here with the best of 5 between Roccat and Giants. And then, of course, as soon as we're done here, we're going to hand things over to the NA LCS team for their first regional qualifier between Cloud9 and Gravity.
Is the dream still alive for Cloud9 fans? Everybody's been talking about it for weeks. Got to run the gauntlet now for Cloud9 to get to Worlds.
Perhaps Cloud9 also has a silver lining or a bronze one in this regional qualifier, getting the bronze medal going to Worlds. Doubtful, but hey, chance is a chance.
We'll have to see what happens. For now, though, we're going to look at the matchup at hand here in Europe between 2 teams that ended the summer split neck and neck, even with a tiebreaker game, Roccat and Giants Gaming. Now, starting on the red side, the higher seed, Roccat with Steve, Jankos, Nukdok, Mr. Rawls, Vander, and their coach, Yamato Cannon. Of course, Yamato has been with us a couple of weeks, do some analysis also in the finals over in Stockholm, and every time we asked him, he was very confident in his team's ability to make Worlds. But if you look back again at their quarterfinal, they ended up losing to the Unicorns of Love in 5 games, which then is a fact in sich, but then you see how the Unicorns have done in their further playoffs. That must be an alarm bell for them.
Yeah, Yamato Cannon was obviously confident. It's good to have confidence in your team as a coach, but overall we can't forget, and that's something that Whirlup said earlier in the interview that we saw as well. They don't know how to play aggressive. That is their one weakness, and that shows these very tempered early to mid games where they're just not getting anything done. And that showed in the stat that we just had on the screen as well. They were behind nearly every game, and not by a little bit. Worrisome coming into the series, and especially later on. Yes, this is step 1. They need to win 3 best of 5s consecutively. If you're a bit of a passive team, that may prove to be tough.
Well, hang on a sec, Crepo, because Yamato, in his own words, said Roccat are playing the right style. They're playing League of Legends correctly, which, if you're 2k down at 20 minutes, I'm not too sure I'd agree with that.
Oh, if that's the correct strategy, then I'm a fantastic League of Legends player overall.
Well, you are.
I am.
Well, so we do have some criticism on Roccat, as I think is rightfully so, because they still have to bring home the bacon here if they want to go to Worlds. They do have some good things to rely on. Even in that quarterfinal they lost versus Unicorns of Love, they showed that they have a lot to work on when it comes to champion pools and a lot of strategies to work with.
Yeah, if they want to get the bacon home, as we say, or bring the bacon home, fantastic saying overall. They have more depth of champion and strategic diversity compared to Giants. I'm not going to say Roccat have insane champion and strategic depth, but more so than Giants. Lately, we've seen on 5.14, a strategy you need to be able to run incorporates that Lulu flex pick, which goes back to the Juggernaut compositions. This time it's played with Tristana or another hyper carry and just play around your AD carry. And I think that's something Roccat can do, especially with Mr. Rawls, who is fantastic in terms of positioning around team fights and just playing slow and steady. But compared that to his counterpart, Audrey and Giants, I don't think Giants can pull off the same strategy.
Right. We saw them attempted in Game 2 against H2K. They played the Vayne, they ran the Shen, tried to put everything on Adri. The problem was, it just doesn't suit Giants. Adri doesn't seem to be able to be the big carry on the team consistently. I mean, Adri in those 3 games had 5 deaths before 20 minutes. When you include Vayne games in there, that is obviously not what you want. And, you know, it's a big problem if they want to run those kind of compositions where you're putting so much on your AD carry. We saw Niels perform for Origin in the finals like it. I don't think we can see the same out of Giants.
We'll see possible advantage there, or the edge for Roccat in the bottom lane. Let's look at the mid lane, because when you think of possible edge there, Nukeduck, of course, who honestly, we have a feeling he has been stepping up at the end of the season, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah, it's very hard to compare Nukeduck and obviously Pepinero, because we've sat down and prepared for this match and we looked at the stats they had throughout the season. But honestly, for me, what matters is which one of these players is going to show up, because we've seen great Nukeducks, we've seen great Pepineros, but we've also seen, honestly, horrible performances come out of both of these players. And I think we shouldn't look to the past, but just see which one of these players is going to show up, because when you watch Nukeduck when he's in the moment, in the groove, he can be a fantastic player. I've played some games against him. I've watched some of his games where he's just sidestepping skill shots, predicting them, flashing aggressively. He got a couple of kills on February against Fnatic, for example. So he's definitely a player to be reckoned with if he's in his form, if he's in his element. And we'll have to see if that comes out today. Roccat obviously had enough time to prepare drafts as well. They knew they were playing Giants very likely, or likely from a very long time ago, so they should be ready.
A lot of time to prepare. Same goes for Giants, so let's take a closer look at them and their lineup on the blue side for game 1 with Whirlip, Frederick, Pepinero, Adri, Godfred, and their coach Lothar. As a whole, if we look at their entire season, they have definitely improved. They made playoffs where at the end of the spring split, they were in relegation territory, but they hit a wall, honestly, versus H2K in those quarterfinals, and maybe that's just a wall that they're going to hit this season.
Perhaps, but I think it's really important to focus on where Giants were at the beginning of the 2015 season. Just come in, basically were relying on Jax in so many picks and ban phases. They expanded top, they expanded mid-champion pools, looked a lot better. And I feel like it's a testament to their growth that they are in the playoffs. However, we've seen them hit the wall. And, you know, just all around, they haven't been growing as fast as they had been earlier in this play.
I mean, coming from a 10th place team, making playoff alone is a fantastic achievement for Giants. But that stat that we just saw on your screen, 3.2k goal down on average at 20 minutes, that is, you're out of your league when you play against H2K, and you'll have to beat similar level teams if you want to get to Worlds, especially if you look at how Origin has been playing. So for Giants, they stopped progressing somewhere in the middle of the season, and unless they magically have picked this up the last 2 weeks, oh yeah, they'll need a big Hail Mary to make it to the finals.
And their Hail Mary could come from their mid laner if past results before the playoffs are anything to go by. You know, Pepinero, as a mid laner, he was previously the highest damage per minute mid laner we have in Europe, which is a great testament. But then you look at his quarterfinal games against H2K, he was the lowest mid laner that was in the quarterfinals when it comes to his damage. So did not show up a lot like the rest of Giants. They're going to need him on form against Nukeduck today if they want to win.
2 times Victor and 1 time TF, and yet those damage stats.
Yeah, not looking too great. Obviously, damage per minute as a stat as a whole is correlated to how your team is doing, but overall, just watching his individual performance, it just wasn't the Pepinero we were hoping and expecting for. Some of the pathing was wrong, some of the, you know, approaches to the early to mid game was wrong, and he simply was outclassed. Giants as a whole were outclassed against H2K.
If we look at the other players, then where is there a ray of hope for the Giants? I would say in the top lane, Whirlip versus Steve. Steve, you know, he had some good games on Echo, I remember, but it hasn't overall been that impressive, and Whirlip has been able to do good on Giants.
This could be the matchup for Giants Gaming, and they can exploit the advantage that Whirlip has over Steve. Yeah, you see similar early game stats, however, Steve just doesn't see us as well as Whirlip, and Whirlip has those champion picks that he can bend to himself. He plays a Trundle top lane. Nobody else plays Trundle top lane. They tried to gank it once, almost got a double kill in the return. So Whirlip is a tricky player to keep in check. And obviously, the way this meta has been shifting, he could pick up a couple of champions too.
He could be. Gangplank should be the big one.
Yeah.
It fits his style, likes to split push, likes to duel, should have it in his champion pool. I don't see Steve having picked it up.
We'll see what happens. For now, though, we're going to send it on stage where QuickShot is joined by the coaches of today's LCS Clash.
Thank you very much, Sharks, and the rest of the analyst desk. I am joined here by Lozark and Yamato Cannon from Giants and Roccat, respectively. Let's start by talking about how you guys got to the regional qualifier. Lozark, tough quarterfinal against H2K. What is it that the Giants took away from that series and now looking forward towards the qualifiers?
Well, we played on a new patch that affects our game plan and our game style, and it was kind of hard to adapt. But now we are learning from our mistakes, so I think we're prepared and we are ready.
All right, so I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but Yamato, longer series against UOL, went all the distance. You've then spent a couple of weeks on the analyst desk looking at the semifinals and the finals. What is it that Roccat took away from their quarters and the fact that you've been on the same patch for several weeks?
I was actually quite happy that we had so much time. Like, our flaws were obviously exposed in Unicorns of Love game. Even though Unicorns of Love won, like, we played very, very poorly. And I felt these 3 weeks we've improved a lot, and I feel personally that 5.14 is my patch right now. It's my bitch.
Okay, so we'll see if that proves true. Lozak, similar thing you were saying you've learned now it's a new patch. How is it training on a new patch when the live server's on a different one? You know, how is the Giants' mindset around that?
Well, we prepare a lot. We are adapting properly for this patch, and yeah, we are in a good shape right now, so we are ready.
All right, we're ready, and Yamato says this is his patch. We're about to find out. Before we head over to the casters, though, we are going to hear from Audrey about how he's coming into the regional qualifiers, and he doesn't care about being the underdog.
It's going to be like really, really tough for us to win the Gauntlet, but we have been a team that historically we've always won when we had less chances of winning in tournaments and stuff. So I think that it might play in our favor that we always turn the tables when it's like the last chance.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard Polscam, excited to be here with the man they say is Pod Dane, Pop.